Issue 1, so help me God.
The state of our economy calls for action, bold and swift. We will build the roads and bridges, the electric grids and digital lines that feed our commerce and bind us together.
Amen.
We will restore science.
But President Obama's plan doesn't work fast enough. At least according to the mighty Congressional Budget Office, the CBO works for Congress and analyzes and estimates the costs of congressional spending. The CBO says that the majority of funds from the president's federal injection for public projects with their many jobs will not be spent by the end of 2010, 2 years roughly from now. Item, highway construction. Of the $30 billion earmarked for highways, less than $4 billion can be spent over the next 2 years. 13%. Item, green power. Of the $18.5 billion set aside for renewable energy, $3 billion will be spent over the next 2 years. 16% of the total. Item, total projects for all federal projects. That includes highways, bridges, schools, etc. The total money earmarked is $355 billion. Of that $355 billion, $136 billion, 32% spent by the end of 2010. 32%, about 1/3 of the total. The time frame semantic for a public project to be up and running is quote-unquote shovel-ready. That approval is needed before federal monies can be appropriated. And it must come from a variety of boards: zoning, public health, utilities, environmental, and different levels of government, state, municipal, village, township, all of which can take up to several years. At an absolute minimum, it takes 1 year before a project is quote-unquote shovel-ready and putting paychecks into workers' hands. These federal outlays are practically the only projects that Obama has any control of. Question: do you agree that the problem with capitalizing the economy through federal money poured into infrastructure rebuilding, the problem is that the process, under the best of circumstances, takes between 1 and 2 years. It does nothing for the next 12 months. Pat Buchanan.
John, that's just one of the problems with it. No doubt that is a problem. It's down the road, so it looks more and more like this is just a big permanent expansion of the federal government. Secondly, the thing is beginning to be larded up with pork. The National Endowment for the Arts is coming in for $50 million. Third, the Republican tax cuts are diminishing in size. This is going to be the mother of all pig-outs. It's losing, quite frankly, that cachet of an immediate, dramatic injection into the economy, and that's why the markets under Barack Obama, since his election, the equity markets and things have been tanking. What they are saying is one of two things: either he ain't going to get it through, but he is, or this is not going to work, or it is not relevant to the economic crisis and the financial crisis this country faces.
The mother of all pig-outs. What do you think of that, Eleanor?
First of all, the stock markets are tanking because of bank problems, and we're going to talk about that later. Secondly, what is Pat's alternative? I think the last time I checked, the Republicans lost the election, and the president has set forth this as his vision. We are in uncharted territory, and that phrase has been expressed on this show many times. There is a collective feeling among economists from the left and right that a massive spending package is required, and you cannot have the economy digest everything in the first year. Frankly, if the bulk of this is spent in 2 years, and we get out of this in 2 years, we'll be ahead of the game. So I think this is going to pass, and there's going to be lots of groveling because a lot of Democratic priorities are going to be included, and the tax cuts will be there, but they won't be as much as the Republicans want. The Republicans are powerless in the House. They still count in the Senate, and the president is going to try to bring them along. He probably won't get the huge bipartisan vote he'd like for this package.
Well, look, I mean, when we talk about 1 or 2 years down the road, look, when the Democrats came in and Obama won the presidency, they talked about having an economic stimulus package on his desk day one. Now they're talking about mid-February, toward the end of February. They can't get it together. Why? Because this economic stimulus bill is an epic mess. There are 152 different appropriations in there. Nurse training, Medicare, Head Start, weatherproofing your house.
Those are bad things.
Let her finish, Eleanor.
because what we need right now is an immediate economic stimulus that is going to have immediate short-term gains in the exact areas we need it. We do not need pork in there for weatherproofing your house. Okay, we need it targeted, and if it's targeted with tax cuts, a temporary halt on payroll taxes, relief for businesses in ways that are not going to blow up this $1.2 trillion deficit as it is. I mean, what we're talking about now is not economic stimulus. This is a $1 trillion load of pork running down Pennsylvania Avenue like a herd.
I think the estimate is more like $2 trillion by the end of the year. But let me ask you this, to give this a different direction. And that is, since Obama is going with this relatively long-term government infusion, is Obama therefore telling us what he thinks the length of the recession is going to be?
Well, I don't know that he would like to tell us that that's going to be the length of the recession in this way. In fact, I think it is a well-intentioned but ill-focused program. Certainly it's going to go on, this recession is going to go on for a long time, and if he has a program that moves as slowly as this, he's finally going to be blamed for it, and he's not going to be able to lay it off against President Bush. There is another alternative to this kind of capital investment, which is to work through the state and local governments who have pre-approved programs that can get started right away. It takes it out of the hands of the federal government and therefore out of whatever their political benefits would be, but that seems to me to be by far the better way to do it and the faster way to do it. It is critical that we get this jobs program going as soon as possible. This economy is still going downhill at an accelerating rate, and if he doesn't have a federal program that moves fast enough, he is going to and should be blamed for it.